Good morning, one and all. Today, we are starting the 10th session of Rachana Sangamam 2020 by Department of Rachana Sharira, Shiva Ayurvedic Medical College, Bilaspur, Himachal Pradesh. Before the session starts, I'd like to call Ms. Ritika Kapoor to deliver the prayer.
ॐ नमामि धन्वन्त्रि आदिदेवं सुरासुरे वन्दितं पादपादनं लोके जरारुके भया मृत्युनाशं धतारिषं विविध औषधीनां धन्वन्त्री प्रमाणार्थं सर्वरोगे निवारकम् आयुर्वेद प्रवक्तारं वन्दे पीयूषं धायकम् सर्वे जना सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामया ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ
Thank you, Ms. Ritika Kapoor. Today, we have with us Dr. Alka Jayavant Kumar, Professor, Department of Anatomy, JSS Ayurvedic Medical College, Mysuru. Ma'am will be discussing with us the anatomy of female reproductive system. With an experience of 21 years in teaching, ma'am also served Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, Bangalore, and Goa University as undergraduate examiner, also served as a PG examiner in Maharashtra University of Health Sciences and Bharati Vidyapeeth, Pune. Ma'am also received the Best Teacher Award of JSS Ayurvedic Medical College in the year 2016, also published several articles in several international journals also. With all respect and great happiness, on behalf of Department of Rachana Sharira and Shiva Ayurvedic Medical College and Hospital, we welcome you to the session, ma'am. The platform is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anup sir. First of all, I would like to just my gratitude to your college, your principal, and my colleague, my best friend, Dr. Harsha, and thanks to your Rachana department for giving me this opportunity. So, I will start my session. Today's session, today and tomorrow, I am giving this lecture about this female reproductive system, anatomy of female reproductive system. So we will go to see one by one all the parts and we will discuss all the things. So I will start my session without wasting any time. So contents of female reproductive system are internal genital organs and external genital organs. Internal genital organs are uterus, uterine or fallopian tubes. Any one name will come for exam: ovaries, vagina, and external genital organs. So major topic is there, that is uterus. Very important topic. See my children, it's a very important in the view of exam, in the view of our practice, our knowledge, everything, and we must know. That means this all the this knowledge of the uterus. Very important thing is there, and here we will go to start the uterus. In layman's language, the uterus is called as womb. But here another one synonym is there for the uterus, that is hystera. Hystera, from the hystera, word is coming hystectomy, hysterotomy. 1 minute. Admit ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು? ಇವ್ರು ಯಾಕೆ ಈ ತರ ಮಾಡಿದಾರ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನೋಡಿ.
Ma'am, I'll be admitting the participants.
You
Ma'am.
will admit na, because that's
Yeah,
coming this. Okay, okay, no problem. Thank
yeah,
you.
ma'am.
So this in layman's language, the uterus is called as womb, and here the synonym is there, that is hystera, from which hysterectomy and all these words are coming, hysterectomy, hysterectomy. So we will consider this word in medical terminology. We have to use hystera, this word. It is a child being organ. It is the organ which protects and provides nutrition to a fertilized ovum, because fertilized ovum is going to reside there. That's why it gives protection, it gives accommodation, and it provides nutrition to a fertilized ovum, enabling it to grow into a fully formed fetus. Means starting from this, in that means this implantation of the embryo to the fully formed fetus, it is residing in the uterus, where it gives protection as well as nutrition to this embryo. At the time of childbirth, or which is also known as parturition, contractions of the muscles in the wall of this organ results in expulsion of the fetus from the uterus. It is situated, that means this is general introduction, and it is situated, where is the location, which is very much important. It is situated in the pelvis, in between urinary bladder anteriorly and rectum posteriorly. It is pyriform in shape, and the dimensions are nothing but 7.5 centimeter long, 5 centimeter broad, 2.5 centimeter thick. In inches, we can say that 3 to 1 in this way. We can 3 inches long, 2 inches broad, 1 inch thickness. It weighs about 30 to 40 grams, very small organ. See carefully, the parts of the uterus, it is divisible into an uppermost part, expanded part, which is called as body, and a lower cylindrical part is there, that is known as cervix. The junction of these two parts is marked by a circular constriction. The body forms the upper two-thirds of the organ, and the cervical part, which forms the lower one-third of the organ. Normal position and angulation, which is very much important. You keep in your mind, children, that in Viva examiner is always asking this question. Normally, the long axis of the uterus forms an angle of about 90 degrees with the long axis of vagina. The angle is open forwards, and the forward bending of uterus, it is known as anteversion of uterus. So keep in your mind that uterus, long axis, and long axis of vagina both are not in straight line. Instead of that, they are making 90-degree angle, and that's why this is very much important to prevent the uterus from sagging downwards. The uterus is also slightly flexed on itself. This is referred to as anti-flex. The angle of anti-flexion is 125 degree. So anti-version and anti-flexion, it is very much important is there. So long axis of vagina makes an angle of long axis of uterus of 90 degree, that is known as antiversion. The uterus, it is flex itself on itself, that is 125-degree angle is there, that is known as anti-flex angle. So see carefully, antiverted angle is there. So this is long axis of vagina, dark blue color. Long axis of uterine body, green line is there. And in between these two, whatever the angle is there, so this long axis of cervix, that is red color, and axis of uterine body, that is it here, green color is there. In between these two, angle of anteversion is there, and uterus bending in between the that means the cervix and as well as uterine body. You keep in your mind the angle between uterus and vagina, that is known as anteversion, while the angle between body of uterus and cervix of uterus, that is known as anteflexion. So whenever patient is coming, we have to write after examination. That means when we are doing this in gynecological patient, the examination of uterus. So at that time we should write uterus, normal size, that is NS, and they are writing AVAF, means anteverted, anteflex. So you should keep in your mind, IVA examiner is always asking what is mean by anteversion, what is mean by anteflexion of uterus. Communications of uterus superiorly, the uterus communicates on each side with the uterine tube. See carefully, on the either side uterine tubes are there. Inferiorly, it is continuous with vagina. See, on the both sides superolateral angles, there is uterine tubes are there. and inferiorly vagina is there. Body of uterus parts, body has a fundus, two surfaces, anterior surface which is known as vesical surface. Vesical means which is related to urinary bladder, posterior or intestinal surface which is related to intestinal coils, and two lateral borders. Fundus of this uterus, fundus means bulging part is there, dome shaped part is there. It is formed by the upper free end of the uterus. See carefully, the uppermost dome shaped part is there, that is known as fundus. Fundus lies above the opening of uterine tubes. On the either side uterine tubes are there, and above the uterine tube whatever the part of uterus is there, that is known as fundus. It is convex like a dome. It is covered with peritoneum and is directed forward when the bladder is empty. It is very much important. Whenever we are assessing the pregnancy after being a doctor, when patient is coming, when we are assessing pregnancy, or if we are going to confirm the pregnancy by per vaginal exam, we have to tell to patient first to empty the bladder. If bladder is not going to empty, the bladder will be full and the doctor will be going to confuse that full bladder as a pregnancy, because I told you that location of uterus, it is situated in between anteriorly bladder and posteriorly rectum. So if bladder is empty, then uterus will be more anteverted and we can palpate the fundus of uterus. The fertilized oocyte is usually implanted in the posterior wall of fundus. The posterior wall of fundus is the common site for implantation of embryo, and fundus is the free part. On the two lateral side there are broad ligaments. Next I will tell you. That's why uterus cannot grow on the either side in pregnancy. Instead of that, growth of uterus in the pregnancy, it is height wise. That means fundus is going on increasing in the height, so that is known as fundal height. So this is the fundus. The anterior or vesical surface which is comes in relation with urinary bladder. So it is flat in nature and it is related to the urinary bladder. It is covered with peritoneum and forms the posterior or superior wall of uterovesical pouch. Pouch means one pocket like structure. See carefully, vesicouterine pouch. So here the vesicouterine pouch, it is present in between the anterior, nothing but the posterior, that means the anterior wall of or anterior surface of uterus, as well as posterior surface of the bladder. Or in short, you can remember that in between uterus and bladder, whatever the fold of peritoneum is there, that is known as vesicouterine pouch. Next is posterior or intestinal surface. So see carefully, anterior surface is flat, but posterior surface is convex, and it is related to the coils of terminal ileum and to the sigmoid colon. It is covered with peritoneum and forms the post anterior wall of the rectouterine pouch. See carefully the difference in between two pouches. Vesicouterine pouch, it is shallow in nature, but see carefully this rectouterine pouch, it is the deep part is there. It is the pouch or fold of this peritoneum which is present in between the uterus as well as rectum. So this is known as rectouterine, means present in between rectum and uterus, and it is the deepest point. It is also known as pouch of Douglas. Keep in your mind, this is the deepest point in pelvis. So whenever any pus formation is there, any infection is there which is known as PID. PID means pelvic inflammatory diseases, or any prolapse of ovaries is there. So due to gravitational force, the pus will be thick in nature as well as the ovaries also. So due to gravitational force, wherever the downward or down part is there, in that it is going to accumulate. So similarly, the rectouterine pouch, it is the deepest point in pelvis, so that the prolapse ovaries as well as pus formation, it is going to circulate or going to accumulate in this rectouterine pouch, or which is also known as pouch of Douglas. Douglas is the name of scientist, anatomist, you keep in your mind. The pouch of Douglas may come for short question in exam. So anterior surface as well as posterior surface. Two lateral borders are there. Each lateral border is rounded and convex. It provides attachment to the broad ligament. the uterine tube opens into the uterus at the upper end of this border. This end of border gives attachment to round ligament of uterus antero-inferior to the tube. So lateral borders are rounded and convex, and you can just remember that it gives attachment mainly to the broad ligament. On the superolateral angle, it gives attachment to the fallopian tube, as well as just below the, that means fallopian tube, it also gives attachment to round ligament of the uterus. See carefully, centrally the pyriform shape uterus is there. On the either side fallopian tubes are there. So one is section, one is as usual intact is there. So see carefully, that is the body of uterus. Above the body, that dome shaped structure is fundus, and these both sides fallopian tubes are there. So below the fallopian tube, that means there is ligament of Ori is there, and that fan shaped large part is there. That is nothing but known as broad ligament. Broad ligament is there, again round ligament is there, and these are two lateral borders. Next is cervix. See carefully, here dotted area is there, lined area is there, that is known as cervix. Very important, cervix is the lower cylindrical part of the uterus. It is less mobile than the body. Keep in your mind, uterus is a mobile organ, it is not a fixed organ. So as compared to the body of uterus, it is less mobile. It is about 2.5 centimeter long. Body is 5 centimeter, it is 2.5 centimeter. So total is 7.5 centimeter long part is there, and is slightly wider in the middle than the either side. See carefully, centrally wider part is there, wider part is there. On the either side, it is somewhat, that means small is there. So upper part is narrow, lower part is narrow, centrally it is wider. So first one we had seen body. Fundus body is having, the fundus is there and body is there. So fundus, it is dome shape which is present above this, nothing but, here see carefully, the fundus, it is the dome shape part which is present above the two fallopian tubes on the superolateral angle, and below this is body is there. So this body, it is having anterior or vesical surface which is flat in nature, and it is separated from the urinary bladder by a fold of peritoneum that is known as vesicouterine pouch, which is shallow in nature. Next is posterior or intestinal surface, which is convex in nature, and it is related to coils of intestine as terminal ileum and sigmoid colon. It is, that means, covered with peritoneum, or it is separated from the rectum with the help of fold of peritoneum, which is known as rectouterine pouch or pouch of Douglas, that is the deepest point in the pelvis. Two lateral borders are there. Each border, it is rounded and convex in nature. It provides attachment to the broad ligament. The uterine tube opens into the uterus at the upper end of this border. This end of border gives attachment to the round ligaments also, and antero-inferior to the tube. So just you should, in short, you should remember that two lateral borders gives attachment to fallopian tube, round ligament and broad ligament also. Cervix is the terminal, that means it is a lower cylindrical portion. It is less mobile than the body, and its length is 2.5 centimeter. It is slightly wider in the middle than on the either side or either end. The lower part of the cervix projects into, see carefully, the lower part is vaginal part is there. So lower part of cervix projects into the anterior wall of the vagina, which divides it into supravaginal and vaginal. Supra means above. Above the vagina, whatever part is there, that is known as supravaginal part. And in the vagina, whatever the part is there, that is known as vaginal part. So here, see carefully, fundus, uterine cavity, the uterine body is there, as well as the cervix is there. So here, if we are say taking section, that means this coronal section, if we are taking of the uterus, it shows the triangular uterine cavity, and that triangular, it is inverted triangle is there, whose apex is downward, directed downward, base is upward, having two superolateral angles which are opening into fallopian tube. Downward angle open into the cervix here, that is known as here internal cervical os, and this one, it is the uterine body which is triangular in nature. If we are taking sagittal section, it will show one slit like structure. So these three parts are there for the uterus: fundus, body and cervix. Whenever you should, somebody is asking, you should remember uterus, it is divided into fundus, body and cervix. Fundus is the growing part, as well as next is body, flattened part is there, having anterior, or that means vesical surface, posterior, or which is nothing but intestinal surface, and here two lateral borders are there. Cervix, it is a cylindrical part. Cervix, I told you, it is protruded inside the vagina. Half part is upper side. That is known as supravaginal part. Supra means it is above the vagina. It is present anteriorly to the bladder. It is present just anterior to the bladder and posteriorly to the recto-uterine pouch containing coils of intestine and to the rectum. On each side to the ureter and to the uterine artery embedded in the parametrium. The fibrofatty tissue between the two layers of broad ligament and below it is called as parametrium. It is most abundant near the cervix and vagina. So this is nothing but relations of the supravaginal part. So all these are pictures one by one, just you see. And vaginal part of cervix projects into anterior wall of vagina. This is very much important. The spaces between it and the vaginal wall are called as vaginal fornices. See the opening of the uterus, or this nothing but cervix, it is nothing but going to protrude inside the vagina, and this there the vagina, it is round shape, and in between vagina and the cervical opening some spaces are there that are known as vaginal fornices. The cervical canal opens into the vagina by an opening that is called as external os. I told you the body and cervix, the cavity where they are going to join with each other, that is known as internal os, and cervical canal opens into the vagina by an opening that is called as external os. This external os, for assessing something, it is very much important. See carefully, in nulliparous woman, that is a woman who has not born children, the external os is very small and circular. However, in multiparous woman, the external os is bounded by anterior and posterior lips. Both of which are in contact with the posterior wall of vagina. If we are going to see the bimanual, that means per vaginum exam, if that lady is multiparous woman, means who given birth to children, so due to that delivery, this nothing but cervical os, it is divided into upper anterior lip and posterior lip. But in the woman who has not given birth to children, in such type of woman, the external os is very small and circular. So this is nothing but once again fundus, body, cervix. Most of the students are first year students. Keep in your mind, describe in detail uterus with its location, parts, supports of uterus, anatomical relations and clinical aspect. It is coming for long question, as well as supports of uterus may come for 5 marks, parts of uterus may come for 5 marks, or single support means ligaments, they may come for a short question. Cervical canal means cavity of cervix, it is fusiform in shape, means in middle it is wider and upper end and lower end are narrower. It communicates above with the cavity of the body of uterus. See carefully, this is nothing but here in this way, it is fusiform in shape. Upward it is continuous with uterine cavity, and downward it is, that means it communicates above with the cavity of body of uterus through the internal os, and downward, see carefully, the canal and below with the vaginal cavity through the external os. So this one picture you see, cervical canal which is fusiform in shape, uterine cavity triangular in shape, cervical canal upward it is continuous with uterine cavity through the internal os, and here downward it is continuous with vagina through the external cervical os. The canal is flattened from before backwards so that it comes to have anterior and posterior walls. Cervical canal, very important. Next is ligaments of uterus. So see my children, all the things are clear. The uterus, it is having three parts, fundus, body, and nothing but here cervix. So all the slides I shown you, see carefully, fundus, cervix, it is there, all the things are there. Fundus, it is the upper free part. Next here body having anterior surface, posterior surface, and two lateral borders. Next we have to go for cervix. It is lower cylindrical part of uterus. It is less mobile than the body. It is about 2.5 centimeter long and is slightly wider in the middle than on the either side. And here the lower end of cervix, which is lower part, it is protruded in the vagina, so that it is divided into supravaginal and vaginal part. See carefully, the cervical canal is there, which is supravaginal part. It is related to bladder, and here this is the vaginal part, which is projects into the anterior wall of vagina. This is very much important, and which forms here spaces that are known as vaginal fornices. These fornices are anterior fornix, posterior fornix, and two lateral fornices are there. In the vagina, we will see in detail. The cervical canal opens into the vagina by an opening called the external os. The external os is very much important because in the women who are not having children, in that type of woman, it becomes very small and circular. In multiparous women, it becomes having anterior and posterior lips, both of which are in contact with the posterior wall of vagina. So here see carefully, uterine cavity, which is triangular in nature. We are taking section of uterus, that is coronal section. You are knowing coronal section, the section that is which passes through coronal suture, and it makes the body or divides the body into anterior and posterior parts. So here this coronal section, it shows the triangular section of uterus, uterine cavity, and superolateral angles, they communicate with the uterine tubes or fallopian tubes. And downward, it is continuous with the cervical canal through internal os. So see carefully, cervical canal, it is the cavity of the cervix which is fusiform in shape. It communicates above with the cavity of the body of uterus through the internal os, and below with the vaginal cavity through the external os. The canal is flattened from before backwards so that it comes to nothing but have anterior and posterior walls. So see carefully, externally in external anatomy, uterus is having fundus, body, cervix, and if we are taking section, the uterus, it is having cavity because it is giving space to grow the fetus right from embryo up to the fully formed fetus. And the fundus, it is the dome shaped part which is going to increase at the time of pregnancy. That's why we are telling as fundal height. That is 2 months, 3 months height. It is considered as in weeks, just like 8 weeks fundal height is there, 14 weeks fundal height, 16 weeks fundal height, 20 weeks fundal height. So pregnancy, it is counted in weeks, and that is counted in the fundal weeks. That you should remember, because on the either side, both lateral borders are there, and they are giving nothing but attachment to the broad ligament, so that uterus is going to tie on the both sides. That's why there is no chance for the uterus to grow on the either side. So uterus enormously going to grow at the time of pregnancy with this fundus only. So whenever we are going to assess the pregnancy, we have to assess the fundal height as well as fundus is very much important, because the posterior wall of fundus, it is the normal site for implantation of uterus. You might have studied the implantation, that is nothing but the penetration or embedding the embryo. Whenever the fertilization occurs, after fertilization, the fertilized embryo, it is going to enter in the uterus within 7 days. And after that, still that embryo, it is covered by zona pellucida. When it is enter in the uterus, with some circumstances that what is going to happen, still it is not knowing, but suddenly zona pellucida disintegrates soon after reaching the uterus, and it is now covered only by this, that means here afterwards it is going to the cells which are going to stick to this endometrium, and that's why afterwards it is the embryo is going to burrow inside the endometrium, and it is going to take its own site, own place, and it is fully going to nothing but going to burrow inside the endometrium. And this type of implantation which is occur only in the human being, that is known as interstitial, that means implantation is there. So this is very much important, it is there. And zona pellucida, it's a very much important layer is there. So this implantation, it occurs in the posterior wall of fundus. Next here, it is ligaments of uterus. See carefully. The uterus, it is nothing but, that means it is the mobile organ is there. It is not fixed. You are knowing in our body, some organs, they are covered totally with peritoneum. They are mobile in nature. Similarly, uterus is there. Some organs, they are known as retroperitoneal organ. So retroperitoneal means which are only anteriorly, retro means behind the peritoneum. Retro means behind. So they are present behind the peritoneum. So retroperitoneal organ present behind the peritoneum, and these organs, their anterior surface only covered by peritoneum. Such organs are fixed organs, just like pancreas, kidneys, duodenum. These organs we should keep in your mind. But the uterus, it is, though it is covered by this peritoneum, it is a mobile organ, but it has to keep at one place so that the ligaments plays an important role. They kept this organ properly in its place. That means in pelvic region, in between bladder anteriorly and rectum posteriorly. So some ligaments are there, important ligaments, which keeps this uterus in proper position. These are peritoneal ligaments. First one, anterior ligament. It consists of uterovesical fold of peritoneum. Just I shown you uterovesical pouch. Posterior ligament. This is, it consists of rectovaginal fold forming rectovaginal pouch of peritoneum, that is pouch of Douglas, and the right and left folds of broad ligament. So this broad ligament, I shown you the picture, this one. So this fan shape large are there. These are broad ligaments. So broad ligaments are nothing but, it consists of, that means these are the folds of peritoneum which attach the uterus to the lateral pelvic wall. It contains following structures: uterine tube, the round ligament of uterus, the ligament of ovary, uterine vessels, ovarian vessels, the uterovaginal and ovarian, that means nerve plexuses, lymph nodes, and dense connective tissue. Keep in your mind, the broad ligaments may come for short question, and fibromuscular ligaments we will see in detail next. Round ligaments of uterus, transverse cervical ligaments, and uterosacral ligaments. Next here, blood supply to the uterus, arterial supply. The uterus is supplied, number one, chiefly by the two uterine arteries, which are partly enlarged during pregnancy and partly by the ovarian arteries. Venous drainage, the veins form a plexus along the lateral border of uterus, and the plexus drains through the uterine, ovarian, and vaginal veins into the internal iliac veins. So arterial supply, just remember same name, uterus, uterine arteries, and partially it is supplied by ovarian arteries. Venous drainage, that is nothing but veins which are forming a plexus, and that is going to open into uterine, ovarian, and vaginal veins into the, lastly into the internal iliac veins. Lymphatic drainage, here it is divided into three parts: upper lymphatics, aortic lymph nodes, superficial inguinal lymph nodes. Lower lymphatics, it is going to drain into external iliac, internal iliac, and sacral lymph nodes. And middle lymphatics, that is external iliac lymph nodes. These are all things, there is no excuse for each and every organ. You have to by heart. Sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves, nerve supply. Sympathetic nerves from T12 and L1. T12 means thoracic 12 spinal nerve, and L1 means lumbar 1 spinal nerve. You are knowing the sympathetic and parasympathetic division. Here the 31 spinal nerves are there, 33 vertebrae and 31 spinal nerves, that is cervical 8, thoracic 12, lumbar 5, sacral 5 and coccygeal 1. And parasympathetic nerves are S2, S3, S4. The sympathetic and parasympathetic this is the divisions of ANS, autonomic nervous system. Very interesting chapters are there. All these systems are very interesting. So nerve supply sympathetic from T12 and L1, parasympathetic from S2, S3, S4. So up to this one point of the uterus, it is over. That is just external, all the things I told you, that is nothing but uterus. It is contains the body, fundus, this is the fundus, body, anterior posterior surface, two lateral borders, and this is nothing but cervix of uterus. Is it clear for all the students? So keep in your mind fundus, body and cervix. Fundus is the free part, body is the nothing but broad part having two surfaces, two borders. Cervix, it is the cylindrical part and it is protruded into the vagina, so that divided into supravaginal and vaginal part. Cavity of the uterus, body of uterus, it is triangular. Cavity of cervix, it is fusiform in shape, and that is cervical canal, which is upward continuous with cavity through internal os. Downward, it is continuous with vagina through the external os. In nulliparous woman, external wall is small and circular. In multiparous woman, it is divided into anterior lip and posterior lip. So next here, age and reproductive changes. Uterus, it is nothing but a main part, ovaries and uterus are main part of the female reproductive system, and this uterus, it is continuously going on changing its shape and size as under the influence of hormones. So here in fetal life it is different, at puberty different, menstruation different, pregnancy different, in old age it is different. So see carefully here at the newborn, see carefully in fetal life, the cervix is larger than the body, which projects a little above the pelvic brim. First one in fetal life. At the puberty, under the influence of estrogen and progesterone, the uterus enlarges and descends to the adult position. During menstruation, the uterus is slightly enlarged and becomes more vascular, means more blood supply is there at the time of menstruation. The lips of the external os are swollen at the time of menstruation. During pregnancy, the uterus is enormously enlarged. See carefully, in the pregnancy, very enormously enlarged, mainly due to hypertrophy of the smooth muscle fibers and partly due to hyperplasia. As pregnancy advances, the uterine wall becomes progressively thinner. After part, here see carefully, the uterus, it is present in pelvic region in between bladder and rectum. But at the time of pregnancy, it ascends upwards and the fundus, it reaches up to xiphoid process. You are knowing xiphoid process, it is the part of the sternum. Sternum, it is the breastbone or chest bone, which is just like a sword, and it contains manubrium sternum, body of sternum, and xiphoid sternum. So this uterus, it reaches up to that, and 40 weeks size of uterus, which reaches nearby the xiphoid process of sternum. As pregnancy advances, the uterine wall becomes progressively thinner. There is enormous stretching of the uterine muscles are there. That is myometrium of the uterus. After parturition, means after delivery, the uterus gradually involutes. Involution of uterus, it is very much important because uterus it is a large size structure at the time of pregnancy. When the fetus comes out, when the baby comes out, it becomes hollow structure, just like a hollow balloon. But that balloon is not going to collapse. It is going to reduce in its size. That is known as involution of uterus. This phenomena or this procedure, which is formed or carried out under the influence of oxytocin hormone. Oxytocin, you are knowing, which is coming from the posterior pituitary gland, and it is secreted by hypothalamus, that is supraventricular nuclei of hypothalamus, and afterwards it is carried out or carried towards the posterior pituitary gland through the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract, and here in the posterior pituitary gland it is going to store, and whenever necessary from there it is going to release. And under the influence of this, the uterus going to reduce in its size, and after nearby 15 days or 3 weeks, the uterus again comes to the normal size, that is non-pregnant size. So that after delivery, daily we have to see the fundal height. So generally it is going to reduce 1 finger or 2 finger. We have to see the uterus size, whether the uterus is going to contract or not, and whether the uterus is going to involute or not. Involution means the pregnant size uterus, large uterus, it is going to reduce in its size and comes to the size of non-pregnant size, that is known as involution. The uterus gradually, after delivery, the uterus gradually involutes and returns almost to the non-pregnant size. In old age, the uterus becomes atrophic and smaller in size and more dense in texture. The internal os is frequently obliterated. The lips of the external os disappear. I told you in multiparous woman, the lips are there. In old age, the lips are going to disappear and the os itself may be obliterated, means going to close. So these are the changes in fetal life, very small. The nothing but cervix is larger than the body. At puberty, it is enlarges in size and come to its proper position in the pelvic. During menstruation, it is highly vascular and enlarged under the influence of estrogen and progesterone. During pregnancy, again under the influence of these hormones, and due to this, that means presence of the fetus, it is enormously grows because fetus is going to grow, and that's why it reaches up to the sternum. And after parturition or after delivery, the uterus again involutes, reduces in its size, the texture also comes to normal, and lastly it comes to non-pregnant size. But in old age, it becomes again atrophic and smaller in size and more dense in structure. The internal os is frequently obliterated. The lips of external os disappear and the os itself may be obliterated. So these are age-wise reproductive changes in the uterus. See carefully, in female reproductive changes, you are going to see the age-wise changes in the uterus. In male reproductive system, you are going to see the age-wise reproductive changes in prostate gland. So these all the things you must study in first year, and you have to have, you must have close impact on brain about all these topics. Next is supports of uterus, that is nothing but here primary supports, muscular or active supports, pelvic diaphragm, perineal body, urogenital diaphragm. Fibromuscular or mechanical supports, uterine axis, pubocervical ligaments, transverse cervical ligaments of McEnroe, uterosacral ligaments, round ligaments of uterus. So here secondary supports, which are peritoneal supports, broad ligaments, uterovesical fold of peritoneum, recto-vaginal fold of peritoneum. So one by one we will see this. That means supports of uterus. The uterus here, see carefully in the introduction, it is nothing but a mobile organ which undergoes extensive changes in size and shape during the reproductive period of life. See carefully. In fetal life, it is very small. In puberty, it is large. In pregnancy, it is highly, extensively large in size. So at that time, it has to hold properly. For that purpose, the supports, they are playing an important role. So it is supported and prevented from sagging down by a number of factors which are chiefly muscular and fibromuscular. So primary supports here, see carefully, first one, pelvic diaphragm. So pelvic diaphragm here, it is a muscular partition formed by the levator ani and coccygeus muscle, with which may included the parietal pelvic fascia on their upper and lower aspects. It separates the pelvic cavity above from the perineal region below. So this is the pelvic diaphragm is there. Mainly this whole diaphragm, it forms just like one platform like structure, and it is a very much important structure is there. Here next is nothing but that is perineal body. So this perineal body, it is very much important structure is there. See carefully, perineal body, and here this perineal, that means body, it is a fibromuscular node to which 10 muscles are attached. See carefully, very small, this nodular structure is there, and this nodular rounded shape structure is there. This is nothing but very small structure, the perineal body. It is a small fibromuscular node to which 10 muscles are attached. It acts as anchor for the pelvic diaphragm and thus maintains the integrity of pelvic floor. The muscles are nothing but here. Before that, I told you this pelvic diaphragm. So see carefully, pelvic diaphragm. Here I told you once again, I will read you this pelvic diaphragm. So see carefully, the pelvic diaphragm, it is a muscular partition, I told you, and it supports the pelvic viscera and results any rise in intra-abdominal pressure. The pubococcygeus part of levator ani is partly inserted into perineal body. If it get torn, this pelvic diaphragm, if it get torn at the time of parturition, parturition is the word which is used for labor or which is used for delivery, the support of vagina is lost and the latter or the vagina tends to sink into the vestibule along with the uterus, thus causing the prolapse of uterus. So this pelvic diaphragm, which is majorly formed by levator ani muscle, that also the pubococcygeus part of levator ani muscle, and these are going to form the platform. If it get torn at the time of delivery, the vagina is going to come downward along with uterus, and that's why there is prolapse of uterus is there. Next is here perineal body is there. So perineal body, see carefully, this perineal body, it is a fibromuscular node to which 10 muscles are attached. See, very small body is there to which 10 muscles are attached. It acts as an anchor for the pelvic diaphragm and thus maintains the integrity of pelvic floor. The muscles are two superficial transversus perini, two deep transversus perini, two pubococcygeus part of levator ani, two bulbospongious muscle, single sphincter of ani externus, and unstriped fibers of longitudinal muscles. So these all muscles are nothing but there for this perineal body. The pelvic diaphragm we had just seen. Another one small point is there, that is urogenital diaphragm, which is a double layer pelvic fascia with its included muscle that is situated between ischial and pubic rami. Next is here pubocervical ligaments. So pubocervical ligaments, see carefully, the posteriorly two ligaments are there. These ligaments connect the cervix to the posterior surface of pubis. They are connecting the cervix to the posterior cervix of pubis, and they are derived from the endopelvic fascia and correspond to the medial and lateral puboprostatic ligaments in the male. So see carefully, they are attaches the cervix to the pubic symphysis, and that's why they are known as pubocervical. Their name itself indicates the ligament in between cervix and pubis is known as pubocervical ligament. This is the pubocervical ligament. Next, very much important ligament is there, that is known as transverse cervical ligament of McEnroe. These are also known as various other names like lateral cervical ligaments, cardinal ligaments, and paracervical ligaments. And these are fan-shaped condensation of endopelvic fascia on each side of cervix above the levator ani and around the uterine vessel. See, very large green, dark green shape, these supports are there. They connect the lateral aspect. They connect nothing but the lateral aspect of the cervix and the upper vaginal wall to the lateral pelvic wall. They form a hammock. The hammock means just like that means the hammock that supports the uterus. Hammock, H-A-M-M-O-C-K. This word is there. It is a bed made by a strong cotton or rope which is hung up between the two trees or poles. We are knowing whenever we are going to picnic, we are taking along with us that swing, which is known as hammock, and that is we are going to attach to the two trees and we are taking swinging there. So that is just like that. It forms a bed, cotton bed. Very important it is there. So in this way, these are transverse cervical ligaments. Next is you transverse cervical ligaments. See carefully on the both side, and these are thick condensation of pelvic fascia and connects the cervix to the lateral pelvic wall. Next is uterosacral ligaments. See carefully, uterosacral ligaments. These are also known as condensation of endopelvic fascia. They connect the cervix to the periosteum of sacrum. Sacrum, you are knowing, having condensation or connection of or union of 5 sacral vertebrae and are enclosed within the rectouterine folds of peritoneum. The uterosacral ligaments keep the cervix braced backward against the forward pull of round ligaments. The two ligaments form a couple that maintains the uterine axis. Here, uterosacral ligament. Then urethral sphincter mechanism is also there. And I told you uterine axis, the anteverted position of uterus itself prevents the organ from sagging down to into the vagina. It is maintained by uterosacral and round ligament. So uterosacral ligament, it is the posterior ligament. Sacrum means going to backward or having posterior part. So the uterus, which is that means they connect the cervix. Cervix, it is attached to the nothing but sacrum and or the two pieces of sacrum, so that it pulls the uterus backwards against the round ligament of uterus. Round ligament pulls forwards, uterosacral ligament pulls backward, so that uterus keep in balance. Next one is round ligament of uterus. These are two fibromuscular flat bands 10 to 12 centimeter long. These round ligaments of uterus, so these are 10 to 12 centimeter long. These ligaments lie between the two layers of broad ligament antero-inferior to the uterine tube. Each ligament begins at the lateral angle of uterus, safely, as well as that means passes through the deep inguinal ring, traverses the inguinal canal and merges with the areolar tissue of labium majus after breaking up into filaments. The round ligament keeps the fundus pulled forward and maintains the angle of anteversion against the backward pull of uterosacral ligaments. This is the forward ligament is there which pulls forwardly in this nothing but the structure or this uterus. Next is histology is there. For histology, here these are afterwards, these are nothing but these anterior ligament, posterior ligament and broad ligaments. These are peritoneal ligaments. You keep in your mind, peritoneal ligaments are secondary ligaments, or they are also known as false ligaments because they are not giving any type of supports. In histology, the mucous membrane is called as endometrium, and which undergoes cyclic changes in 3 phases in one menstrual cycle. So you just keep in your mind, histologically there is uterus contains 3 coats. Outermost serous coat, it is known as perimetrium. Middlemost, it is muscular coat, that is known as myometrium, and innermost, that is known as endometrium. So endometrium, it is having 3 phases of menstrual cycle. Myometrium is the thickest layer made up of an outer and inner, see carefully, outer and inner longitudinal coats, and middle one thick circular coat with lots of arterioles. That means the serous lining, it is known as perimetrium, and following are the 3 phases of endometrium. See in first figure, that means mostly you might have studied that menstrual cycle. First is known as progestational phase, that means first one it is known as proliferative phase here. So this picture, this is the condition of endometrium. The lining comprises simple columnar epithelium. Stroma contains simple tubular glands. Its deeper part contains sections of coiled arteries. Thickness is very less. Progestational phase or secretory phase is there. The glands get circulated and tortuous, enlarge. The sections of coiled arteries are seen in the superficial part of thick endometrium. Endometrium here it is having nearby 6 to 7 mm thickness, and it forms the fetal bed. It is going to form a bed for incoming fetus. If fertilization occur, the incoming embryo, for that the uterus forms bed that is known as fetal bed. And if fertilization does not occur, there will be sudden decline of the that means nothing but hormones, and that's why necrosis in the arteries it will occur. In the tissues, endometrial tissues, necrosis will be occur, and the arteries they are going to rupture, small arteries, and that is known as menstruation. So it is also known as, in one book is there that is known as Chatterjee Physiology. In that they given that the menstruation is nothing but weeping of the uterus, because uterus is going to prepare every month one fetal bed, and if the embryo is not coming, the uterus is going to cry, and that weeping is nothing but menstruation. Third one, menstrual phase. This phase to decline of both hormones. The endometrium becomes ischemic, that is necrotic, and starts being shed. The vessel wall get necrosed, and the blood enters the stroma, and menstrual flow starts. So endometrium having such type of 3 cyclic changes, as well as endometrium, it contains simple columnar epithelial lining, as well as the uterine glands are there. And you should keep in mind there are 2 types of endometrium. One is stratum basalis, another one is stratum functionalis. Stratum basalis is the permanent layer of endometrium. Stratum functionalis, it is the temporary layer. In each and every menstruation, the stratum functionalis, it is going to shed, and after going to shed off this layer, in next up to next menstruation, stratum basalis, it is going to form new stratum functionalis. These all structures you should keep in your mind. Very important things are there. Clinical anatomy, this is the last part is there. So see carefully in the uterus, you should keep in your mind the parts of uterus, location of uterus, histology of uterus, then section of uterus, as well as supports of uterus, reproductive cyclic changes, age-wise changes of uterus, all the supports of uterus, muscular, fibromuscular, then peritoneal, all these things you should keep in your mind. And then histology of the uterus. Last one is clinical anatomy. Number 1 is known as colpotomy and colporrhaphy. It is coming in vagina also, that is opening of vagina, as well as nothing but here it is this reperi, it is done to drain the pus from the pouch of Douglas. Next, retroverted uterus. I will show you some pictures are there. See carefully, this is the retroverted uterus. I told you this is first one picture is normal. Anteverted uterus, the long axis of vagina makes an angle of 90 degree with long axis of the uterus, and that's why uterus cannot sag in the that means outwards. But here in the abnormal figure, you see uterus comes in line with vagina. There is no angle in between long axis of cervix and long axis of vagina and long axis of uterus. So that this is known as retroverted uterus. Next here, see carefully retroverted, how it is. Retroverted is there, and uterus is going to, retro means backward. So retroflex, anti-flex means anterior flexion is there. Here retroverted going to backward falling of uterus, and retroflex also backward flex of the uterus. So retroflexion, retroversion of uterus. Next is here, this is known as prolapse of uterus. So perineal body is one of the chief support of the pelvic organ. I told you 10 muscles are going to insert, and damage to perineal body often leads to prolapse of uterus and of other pelvic organs. So here, this is the uterus which comes out through vagina, that is known as prolapse of uterus. Here, when we are going to clinical side, you should come to know the prolapse of uterus, it is having 3 degree. Number one is first degree prolapse, where the uterus is inside. In second degree, uterus comes out, but if we are pushing inside, it is going to push inside. But third degree prolapse, that is very horrible, which is known as procedentia. So that is procedentia, means uterus totally comes out of vagina. And if we are pushing inside also, uterus will be not ready to go inside. That is known as complete prolapse of uterus or procedentia. Next one is intrauterine contraceptive device. It is used to prevent implantation of fertilized oocyte, just like copper T or multi-load, all these devices. And actually this idea came, just that means in old books they given that in Rajasthan in long ago period they were doing such type of things for camel for preventing this pregnancy. So afterwards it came, I don't know, but it was going to set that all these things. So here intrauterine contraceptive device is used. That means to prevent the implantation. How it is going to prevent means it does not give site to grow the embryo, or it does not give site for implantation of the embryo. It inhibits sperm from reaching and fertilizing egg or ovum. It does not give that sperm. That means it does not give way to the sperm to go in the fallopian tube. It thins the uterine lining also. That's why there will be no implantation, and it thickens the cervical mucus in the cervix itself to prevent sperm from the entering the uterus. So see, the Mirena is the nothing but two straight, that means strips are there. So you should remember the copper T or the multi-load, these all intrauterine contraceptive devices which are known as IUCD, they are going to prevent the pregnancy in such type of things. Next is cesarean section. That is, you should know that cesarean. Caesar means to cut. So whenever normal delivery is not possible, the delivery is carried out by opening the uterus. That is known as nothing but cesarean section. Hysterectomy means to take out or to remove the uterus. And the hysterectomy it is of two types. One is abdominal hysterectomy. That means uterus is going to remove through abdomen. Second one is vaginal hysterectomy. That is uterus is going to remove through vagina. And nowadays another one is there, that is laparoscopic hysterectomy. Next is fibroid uterus. See carefully. Uncommon growth or excessive fibrous tissue growth which will occur. And these are intramural fibroids. So many, that means intraligamentary, subserosal, so many types of fibroids are there. And nowadays it is very common. And next is carcinoma of cervix. The fibroids also may convert into carcinoma. Lot of types of carcinomas are present, and uterus, it is the very common site of carcinoma. So I told you all that means parts here. See carefully. These retroverted, retroflex uterus, as well as colporrhaphy here, intrauterine contraceptive devices, as well as here these fibroids. Caesarean section is there. Previously it was said that Julius Caesar taken birth by this type of this method, but it is not true. Just we can't go for this. Just Caesar means to cut. By cutting the abdomen or abdominal tissues, the birth of that fetus is going to take, which is known as nothing but here, this is known as cesarean section. Whenever normal delivery is not possible, it is going to nothing but take this abnormal thing. This is not normal, which is known as cesarean section. Next is fibroid. I told you these are excessive growths are there, which are going to present inside this nothing but uterus. So uterus, see carefully, it is childbearing organ. It gives site for nothing but that means implantation of the fetus or embryo. It gives, that means protection to the fetus. It gives nutrition to the fetus, and it enables the fetus into fully formed fetus, and afterwards it comes out. For coming out also, uterus gives lot of support. Under the influence of oxytocin, there is continuous contraction of the uterine wall, and due to contraction of uterine wall, the fetus is going to expel outside of the uterus, and then it is going to expel the simultaneously outside to the body of that lady. And after going to outside the body, the enormous size of uterus going to reduce to non-pregnant side. That is known as involution of uterus. So how much it was possible for me? In that way, I told you location of uterus, parts of uterus, supports of uterus, that is ligaments of uterus, histology of uterus, section how we have to take, what are the structures we are going to form, supports, that is peritoneal supports, muscular supports, fibromuscular supports, histology of uterus, blood supply, nerve supply, lymphatic drainage, as well as clinical anatomy. So this is very big topic is there. You should keep in your mind. Just my children, you have to by heart. Very important topic is there. Never you go to neglect this. Very important topic is there. Next, we are going, and if you are having any doubts after this session, I will complete this now uterine tubes. And after this, if you are having any doubts, you can ask me. Next is uterine tubes. These are known as fallopian tubes or salpinx. This one name is there. Definition, these are tortuous ducts which convey oocyte from ovary to the uterus. These are fallopian tubes. They are tortuous ducts which convey ova from the ovary to the uterus. Spermatozoa introduce into the vagina, pass into the uterus, and from there into the uterine tubes. Fertilization usually take place in the lateral part of tube. Each uterine tube, it is about 10 centimeter long, and their one end is attached to the uterus. At the lateral end at the uterine tube opens into the peritoneal cavity through the abdominal ostium. These are situated in the pre-upper margin of the broad ligament of the uterus. See, these two tubes are there, which are known as fallopian tubes. Each uterine tube is about 10 centimeter long. At the lateral end, the uterine tube opens into the peritoneal cavity through its abdominal ostium. Children, whenever you are going to see this fallopian tube, you can see this very minute abdominal ostium also by the naked eye. This ostium is about 3 millimeter in diameter. Subdivisions are there. Each tube is divided into infundibulum, ampulla, as well as isthmus and uterine or intramural or interstitial part. The first one is infundibulum part. Infundibulum means this is one lateral part is there, you see, which is a palmar shape. The lateral end of uterine tube is shaped like a funnel, and it is therefore called as infundibulum. It bears a number of finger-like processes called fimbriae and is therefore called fimbriated end. One of the fimbriae is longer, see carefully, than the others and is attached to the tubal pole of the ovary. It is known as ovarian fimbriae. Next is here the part ampulla. So the part of uterine tube medial to the infundibulum is called ampulla. It is thin-walled structure, dilated and tortuous, and forms approximately the lateral two-third, that is, it is 6 to 7 centimeter part of the tube. It arches over the upper pole of ovary, and the ampulla is about 4 millimeter in diameter, and it is the site for fertilization. Isthmus, see carefully that cord-like structure, it succeeds the ampulla. It is narrow, rounded and cord-like and forms approximately the medial one-third or 2 to 3 centimeter of the tube. The uterine, intramural or interstitial part, the part of fallopian tube which is present in the thickness of the uterus. That is, this part of tube is about 1 centimeter long and lies within the wall of the uterus. It opens at the superior angle of uterine cavity by a narrow uterine ostium. This ostium, it is about 1 millimeter in diameter. See carefully, in the infundibulum, there is abdominal ostium is there, which is 3 millimeter in diameter, and in the uterus intramural part, there is uterine ostium is there, which is 1 millimeter in diameter. Course and relations. The isthmus and the adjoining part of ampulla are directed posterolaterally in a horizontal plane. Near the lateral pelvic wall, the ampulla arches over the ovary and is related to its anterior and posterior borders. its upper pole and its medial surface. The infundibulum projects beyond the free margin of the broad ligament. This is very nice figure is there. You should see that two arches, two, that means these the tubes are there. One side it is intact, another one side it is section. So see carefully. The palmar shaped structure, large funnel shaped structure is infundibulum. Next here, this is ampulla. Ampulla which is forming 6 to 7 centimeter or lateral to third part. Next cord-like medial 1/3 part is isthmus, and inside the thickness of the uterus, that is intramural part. In Viva examiner is asking what are the parts of the fallopian tube. Though this question is very simple at that time, I don't know what's happening, but students are not giving answer. So parts of fallopian tube are infundibulum, ampulla, isthmus, and intramural part. The uterine tube lies in the upper free margin of broad ligament of the uterus. The part of broad ligament between the attachment of mesovarium and the uterine tube is known as mesosalpinx. You are knowing meso means peritoneum. It contains the termination of uterine and ovarian vessels and the euphoron. So this is once again same figures are there. So these all are figures of this nothing but the fallopian tube. The uterine artery supplies approximately the medial 2/3 and the ovarian artery supplies the lateral 1/3 of the tube. The veins run parallel with the arteries and drain into the pampiniform plexus of ovary and into the uterine veins. So this is uterine vein, that means uterine artery and ovarian artery, they are giving blood supply, and veins pampiniform venous plexus, and lastly drain into uterine veins. Lymphatic drainage, lateral aortic lymph nodes, pre-aortic lymph nodes, and superficial inguinal lymph nodes. Nerve supply, the uterine tubes are supplied by both sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves running along the uterine and ovarian arteries. Sympathetic nerves are T10 to L2, parasympathetic nerves vagus nerve, and pelvic splanchnic nerve. You are knowing this nerve, it is formed by union of this S2, S3, S4. Histology, these fallopian tubes, they contain serous coat, muscular coat, and mucous membrane. Here, one more point is there in the fallopian tubes. They are going to open in the abdomen, that means peritoneal cavity or abdomen through abdominal ostium, so that the peritoneal cavity of female, it is a open sac, while peritoneal cavity of male, it is a closed sac, because from the abdominal ostium, through this peritoneal cavity or abdominal cavity, here it is, this connection is there or it is exposure is there through this cavity, through the peritoneal, that means fallopian cavity, tube cavity, then through this uterine cavity, then it is coming to the vaginal canal, then that means through this vagina and then to the exterior, or so vice versa. So that from atmospheric infection, if it is going to vagina, it can spread into the uterus, from uterus, fallopian tube, from fallopian tube, it can go to the peritoneal cavity. So that it's a very much clinical importance is there in the female peritoneum, that female peritoneal, it is the open sac is there. Male peritoneum, it is does not having such type of open connections. Clinical anatomy, very important is there, applied anatomy or clinical anatomy. Salpingitis, inflammation of this, see carefully, inflammation of the uterine tubes is called as salpingitis. Salpinx means tubes. With the help of any infections, they can cause inflammation to the tubes, and due to inflammation, the tubes may get blocked. Generally, the blockage of tubes, it may cause due to any pyogenic, means pus formation, pyogenic infection, or generally the blockage of tubes, it will cause due to tubercular infection, and inflammation may cause by any another infections. So inflammation of fallopian tube, it is known as salpingitis. Next here, there is sterility. Sterility, inability to have a child is called sterility. The most common cause of sterility in female is tubal blockage, which may be congenital or may be caused by infection. Patency of the tube, that means here, may be caused by infection. Generally, whatever I read in that they given, generally here, the blockage of tube, it will cause by the tubercular infection. If that lady is suffering from tuberculosis, it is going to infect the tubes and it is going to impact on the tubes, and that's why there will be chance of this blockage of tube. And blockage of tube, nothing but, see carefully this figure once again I will show you. See, vagina is there, cervix is there, which enter in the uterus, and from that it is going to the fallopian tube. So in the vagina, if the spermatozoa are going to deposit at the time of sexual intercourse, they are going to enter through the cervix, entering in the uterus, and then they are going to entering in the uterine tube. Simultaneously, if ovulation occurs, ovum comes out from the ovary, and then it is going to catch with the help of ovarian fimbria and enters in the ovary, enters in the infundibulum, then comes in the ampulla, and in the ampulla fertilization occurs. But if tubal blockage is there, there will be no chance to the spermatozoa to enter in the fallopian tube, and to the ovum also to enter in the fallopian tube. So here, these are all the things are there. So the patency means opening, or that means opening of the tube. Patency means opening, can be investigated by these. Some tests are there. Number one is known as insufflation test, or it is also known as Rubin's test. It is normally in this test, here air is pushed. Here in this dilatation and insufflation, it is also known as Rubin's test, performed 2 days after menstruation stops, and air or carbon dioxide is pushed transcervically under the pressure, and not commonly done now. It is just like a blind method. Normally air is pushed into the uterus, passes through the tubes and leaks into the peritoneal cavity. This leakage produces a hissing or bubbling sound which can be ausculted over the iliac fossa. Means one person going to pass the air through this cervix and uterus, and that again it will going to pass into the fallopian tube, and through the abdominal ostium the air is going to leak in the peritoneal cavity, and simultaneously assistant or the doctor himself or herself should auscult on the iliac fossa that releasing of the air, which is known as hissing sound or bubbling sound is coming. But I've seen so many cases we can't differentiate because peritoneal, that means, these peristaltic sounds are coming, and that sounds are going to confuse us with this hissing sound. So this is not the perfect method to just assess whether the tubes are open or closed or blocked. Next is hysterosalpingography, right side. One picture is there. So it is a radiographical or radiological technique by which the cavity of the uterus and the lumina of the tubes can be visualized. After injecting a radio opaque oily dye into the uterus, through the uterus, one dye is pushed inside, and they are seeing whether the dye is gone inside or not. And after going to that dye, they are going to take this nothing but picture. If both the tubes are open, the dye is going to the tubes, and we can see such type of picture. If the tube is blocked, that side complete black picture will come. So we can assess very easily this one. Next is tubal pregnancy. It is very important. Sometimes the fertilized ovum, instead of reaching the uterus, adheres to the wall of uterine tube and starts developing there. This is known as tubal pregnancy. The enlarging embryo may lead to rupture of the tube. So you should remember that here, this I told you, zona pellucida disintegrate in the uterus when the embryo reaches there. But before that, if zona pellucida disintegrates, the embryo going to stick to the wall of the fallopian tube, and there itself it starts growing. Though the cavity of the wall of the cavity of the tubes, it is very small. Up to some instant, it is going to grow, and at one stage, it is going to rupture. So that is one emergency case is there. So this is known as tubal pregnancy. Next is here tubectomy. It is nothing but for purpose of family planning. A woman can be sterilized by removing a segment of uterine tube on both the side. So they are going to catch the ampulla, some part of ampulla, see carefully, with the help of Alice forceps, and they are going to tie, and afterward, after tying, they are going to cut that part and they are going to crush so that two parts of these fallopian tubes, they are going to separate. So this is known as tubectomy, very simple, only 5 minutes operation is there, and in this, due to this, we can interrupt the transportation of ovum. So this is nothing but picture of transportation of ovum. You should remember this is the infundibulum with fimbria. This is ovary. After each and every menstruation, either from left or right ovary, one ovum is going to nothing but mature, and it is going to escape or come out from this by rupturing the ovary. That is known as ovulation, and this ruptured ovum can be captured by this ovarian fimbria, and it is going to send inside the ampulla. So in the ampulla, at the same time, if sexual intercourse occur, through the uterus spermatozoon is coming, and then at the ampulla fertilization occurs. After the ampulla, after the fertilization, there will be nothing but division of cells, that is cleavage occurs, that is 2 cell, 3 cell stage, 16 cell stage morula, and within 7 days it is coming to enter inside this nothing but uterus for implantation. So it's a very much important thing is there, just like uterus as well as fallopian tubes. So these two things I told you, I explained how it is possible for me. I don't know how much you understand. So please, if any doubts are there, you can ask me.
The
Hello.
platform is open for discussion. If anyone have any doubts, you can either put that in the chat box or unmute yourself and convey that to ma'am. Ma'am, I got a message.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you repeat the arterial supply of uterus once more?
Okay. See, arterial supply, the uterus is supplied chiefly by the two uterine arteries and are markedly enlarged during pregnancy. I told you two lateral borders are there. So these two arteries, they are ascending on this same angle on the laterally and partly by ovarian arteries. Venous drainage, veins form a plexus along the lateral border of uterus. The plexus drains through the uterine, ovarian and vaginal veins into the internal iliac veins. The uterine arteries, when they are entering in the uterus, again they are going to give lot of branches, and lastly they are giving in the thickness of endometrium, arterioles also, straight arterioles, spiral arterioles, that is very deep things are there. Generally you remember that uterine arteries and chiefly by uterine arteries and partly by ovarian arteries.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, one more question came.
Hmm.
Ma'am, can you explain the position and angulation of uterus once more?
Okay. See carefully, this is the usual position of the uterus. See this green color one line is there, that is nothing but long axis of uterus. And this is the blue color line is there, that is long axis of vagina. See carefully, keep in your mind, if uterus and vagina both are in straight line, and we are always standing in gravitational force, and by cuffing or by micturition, otherwise by defecation at the time of passing motion, or by any one another things, our abdominal, intra-abdominal pressure is going to raise. So there are chances that the uterus, generally it is a mobile organ, and it is very difficultly hold in proper position with the help of ligaments. So it will going to drag or sag into vagina. So to prevent that things, God only prepared in this way anteverted anteflex uterus. So anteversion means uterus, it is forwardly comes. That means long axis of uterus, this one green color, which makes an angle of 90 degree with long axis of vagina. So that is known as angle of anteversion. While the uterus, you can see the organ, it is not a straight organ. That means body of uterus, it is flexed a little bit. That means somewhat in the body of cervix. So that is having 125-degree, which is known as anteflexion, anteversion and anteflexion. And if it is going to backward, that is known as abnormal, which is known as retroversion. Clear?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, one more question came.
Hmm.
Can you please explain the endometrial phases once more?
Okay. See carefully, endometrium in the menstrual phase, 3 phases are there. So first one here, it is known as proliferative phase. Proliferative phase, it is nothing but that means menstrual cycle, it is divided into 3 parts. Menstrual phase that is 1 to 5 days, when menstruation is going on, bleeding is going on. After menstruation, 1 to 14 days, that is proliferative phase. And this proliferative phase, you should remember that here, this is the most important thing is there, in which this only 2 to 3, that means millimeter, this thickness of endometrium is there, and the lining comprises the simple columnar epithelium is there, and here stroma contains simple tubular glands. Glands are not so much tortuous, and thickness is very less, and this will cause under the influence of estrogen. Second phase, that means after 1 to 14 days, ovulation occurs. You know that is ovary going to rupture, that Graafian follicle forms. Graafian follicles come to the boundary of ovary, and there will be stigma occur, and the ovary get ruptured, and the ovum comes out. After ovum comes out, that Graafian follicle is known as corpus luteum, and now the corpus luteum going to secrete progesterone. So second phase, it is known as secretory phase, which comes under the influence of progesterone, and this progesterone which work upon the endometrium. Now the endometrial thickness, it is increased nearby 5 to 6 or 7 millimeter. The glands becomes very much tortuous, and they are started secreting fluid that is known as uterine milk, which is very much important in the first few days for the embryo. When it is not stick, at that time it is very much important for the nutrition of the embryo. So this is known as secretory phase. So when these doctors, they are doing D&C or dilatation of curettage for seeing the endometrial stage, if secretory phase is there, they are telling that it is positive report, because it shows us that fertilization over. And lastly, after secretory phase, in secretory phase, the body is going to prepare one fetal bed, but if the fertilization does not occur, that means ovum comes out, but at that time, if sexual intercourse not occur, fertilization not occur in ampulla, after 24 hours the ovum get died and spoiled there, and otherwise it is going to destroy there, and afterwards sudden there is down or sudden decrease in the that means level of estrogen and progesterone, then the arteries get shrink, and the endometrium going to necrose. And I told you stratum functionalis, that is temporary layer, it is also going to shed. Along with that torn arterioles are there, from that bleeding comes out. So it is known as menstrual phase, and I told you it is also known as crying or weeping of the uterus. So these are the 3 phases of the menstrual cycle: proliferative phase, secretory phase, and menstrual phase. First phase is under the influence of estrogen, second is under the influence of progesterone, and both when decline, then menstrual phase.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, 2 more questions are there.
Yes, tell me.
Apanavayu is how actually Apanavayu is responsible for parturition?
Yeah.
Any issues with Apanavayu will interrupt parturition or not?
Definitely, because apano apanagaha basti medro rugocharaha. In our samhitas, they told that basti medra uru, which is going to reside in the lower part of our body, and it is going to facilitate the activities which are downward going. And this apano apanagaha, it is going to downward, and mostly it is influenced the parturition, defecation, micturition, whatever lowermost, that means phenomena are there that are under the influence of apana vayu. This is nothing but one nervous system is there. In that we can study the pathway of micturition, pathway of defecation, along with how the labor is going on. These all the things are nothing but apanavata. But controversy is there. We should not go to correlate. But apanavayu, that's why in our Ayurveda, these students in third year they can study. In Prasuti Tantra, in 9th month, our acharyas they told that we have to give some basti. Some typical bastis are there. They have to give to that pregnant lady so that normal delivery is coming. So that's a very much important to facilitate or to just give normal path to apanavayu. And that is the now so cause is there for dysmenorrhea and all. If apanavayu is not normal, there are so many obstructed labor and many things are there. So that conditions can be nothing but prevented with the help of giving basti in the 9 months. That's the correct question is there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
One more question.
Hmm.
Ma'am, can you repeat vaginal fornices once more?
Okay. That I will repeat once again in vagina also, but then also today I will tell you. So see carefully. The vaginal part of the cervix projects into anterior wall of vagina. I told you the vagina, that means the cervical canal or cervix, half part is in vagina, half part is above the vagina, which is known as supravaginal part. And whatever the part it is sag or comes in the vagina or protrude, not sag, protrude into the vagina, that is known as vaginal part. So a vagina, it is having different sections. So in upper part, it is rounded in shape, where the spaces are there in between that protruded part of the cervix and the vagina. So these are known as fornices. In short, you can remember the fornices are corners are there. Corners are there. One is anterior corner, one is posterior part, one is anterior part, and two lateral fornices are there. Why these are important means anterior fornix it is shallow, posterior fornix is deep. So if semen it is going to deposit in posterior fornix, then only slowly it will be enter in the uterus. So in artificial insemination and all, they are going to introduce the semen in the posterior fornices. So these are the spaces between the cervix and the vaginal wall. In the vagina, once again, I will explain.
Okay, ma'am. One
Yes.
more question.
Ma'am, please describe about the course of the uterine artery in the pelvis. And madam, what is the relationship of the uterine artery with the ureters?
Uterine artery with ureters. They are also very near. Uterine arteries are very near, and they are just lateral to this. That means they are ascending upwards in the lateral wall of uterus. So here, these uterine arteries are very much important. I told you they are going to ascend upwards. They are going to ascend upwards, and afterwards they are going in the thickness. They are also very near to this ureter also, and all the things are when that means they are attached to one another. That's why we can just say, and here in this, when they are going inside, they are again divided into so many, that means the arterioles, straight arterioles are there, that means arcuate, just like coiled, in that way are there, and their part there, it is very much important thing is there. That means when they are going to inside, at that time in the thickness of uterus, they are very much tortuous at the time of menstruation, and they are lateral, they are near to ureters, but not completely attached. Little bit it is there. That means the site is there. Little bit part is there. That means difference is there, but they are not that much close. But both they are just difference is there in the ureter. This blood supply is different, uterus is different, but all the structures are interconnected. That you just keep in your mind. In abdomen and pelvis, all the structures are interconnected with each other. As compared to artery, venous drainage, you keep in your mind, wall-less venous drainage is there. And this wall-less venous drainage, that's why very nothing but attached with each other, and it is a tortuous course is there. and runs along the side of the uterus, and it supplies to the vagina, cervix, uterus, and fallopian tube. Ureter arterial supply is different. Though they are nearer to each other, but arterial supply is different. Clear?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
One more question is there.
Yes, still.
How to understand the concept of Garbhashaya and Artavavaha Dhamani in Artavavaha Srotas, and also the concept of Artavavahe Dve with special reference to uterus and fallopian tubes.
See, Artavavahe Dve, they given that is Artavavaha Dhamani, it's root sthana and all. So many times while teaching Sushruta, that means Srota Sharira and all I am telling, Sushruta told also Yogavai Srotasa, that is Antarva Srotasa, Bahirmukh Srotas, Antarmukh Srotas. Antarmukh Srotasas are known as Yogavai Srotasa, and Sushruta given everything Rasavahedve, Raktavahedve, Artavahedve. So Artavah Dhamani we can consider as fallopian tubes. And here the two are there, so many controversies are there, and I attended lot of seminars and all there also, so much in panel discussion and all discussions were going on. So there were some these faculties, they were telling we can consider as left and right, but for all the systems we can't consider. Just like Annavahe Dve, Annavahe means this gastrointestinal tract, most of this it is present to left side. So stomach is one, esophagus is going to little bit even, only we can't consider two. See, fallopian tubes are two in number, one can right, one can left, we can consider. But for every system, every srotas, we can't consider this one left and one right. But Sushruta, he was highly talented, he not given simple things. So some faculties, when we were discussing, they told that means, I like this conclusion, they told that Dve means here we can consider one is stimulatory, one is inhibitory. So one is just like sympathetic and parasympathetic. One is stimulation, stimulated secretion, another is inhibited secretion. So in that way, we can consider one is stimulatory, one is inhibitory. So these things are very much important.
Thank you, ma'am. That was
Yes.
a new information. Thank you so much for that answer.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Any further questions? I hope there are no further queries, ma'am.
Okay, okay, okay.
So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so
Yes,
much
yes.
for the time which you have given today. With your permission, I'll wind up today's session, and we'll be continuing the same
one
session.
thing is there,
Yeah.
tomorrow in, I will, afterwards I will call you. Most
Yeah.
probably I want to know that in our college Teachers Day celebration is there, what time. But
Okay.
this time 11 o'clock, 11 to 12. Tomorrow I will just explain vagina. This,
Yeah, ma'am.
okay.
Okay,
As
you
well
can
as
just
ovaries.
inform me the time, and
I will inform
if
you.
you
I
want
will
to change
inform
the
you. Huh?
timing, we can do it. No issue.
And for today's session also, tomorrow also any doubts are there, I am ready to just give.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell your
Okay, ma'am.
students. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you
So
very
with
much
your
for giving me
permission,
chance.
with your
Yes.
permission, I'm winding up today's session.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely. Thank you very much.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.